For KORC, News, Music, and Civics, I'm Millicent Durand. Save Corvallis Schools held a town hall Thursday evening to answer questions from the community about their effort to recall all 7 members of the Corvallis School Board. The group launched its effort following the board approving the closure of Letitia Carson Elementary School and Shadolin Middle School at the end of the 2025-2026 school year. The group put on the town hall to give an opportunity for community members to learn more about the effort and address criticism that the group has received from the community in recent days. Heather Louderback is one of the organizers with Save Corvallis Schools.
Showing up for conversations like this, especially when people feel strongly, is an act of commitment to our community. It says something important about who we are in Corvallis, that we care enough to participate, listen, and work towards shaping our future together. So thank you. We're all aware of how divided things can feel in our country right now. In moments like this, it's easy to feel powerless, to wonder whether our voices still matter, but tonight is a reminder that they do. Tonight's an opportunity to make space for change, being present, engaged with one another, and choosing dialogue over discouragement. Thank you for being here and contributing to a more connected and collaborative community.
Mike Eller is another volunteer with Save Corvallis Schools.
So there's a lot of information and comments and thoughts going around online, and I'm thankful you guys are here because we get to share, and hopefully you walk away with realizing, like, okay, that's the message and that's the truth. October 2025, we saw the second revision come out for closing schools, and a lot of parents that were affiliated with Letitia Carson were like, how do we get involved? What do we do? And we met in a living room, came up with a lot of ideas, and thought, all right, we need to reach out to the board members. We're going to work together. We're going to give them the data that they overlooked. And that was the forming grounds. And then it's been a few months of conversations and engagements and personal interactions. And we realized our mission has actually grown to not just advocate for those 2 schools, but all of the schools here in Corvallis. Because every student matters. There's so many things going on that are district-wide that are causing us to need to really work together and essentially, save Corvallis Schools.
William Roden Kohlberger is the chief petitioner of the recall efforts.
I want to talk about how we got here, because recalls are a serious situation, and they're a serious remedy. We spent months as a group, as individuals, communicating with the board, communicating with ODOT and the city and the fire department and water quality, and the list goes on and on. Our state representatives, our state senator, there's a lot of people, a lot of conversations. And what we kept finding was that the school district was not talking to these entities. We were the first ones to reach out. And we were like, that's strange. Like, no one talked to ODOT, no one talked to the city, no one talked to the fire department. No one talked to water quality, safe routes to schools, and we were concerned. We were really concerned. We started collecting data, started asking questions. We started asking questions of the district, and we kind of got the runaround, to be honest. Go look at the previous board meetings, and that's like 1,000 hours of YouTube. That's a lot to sit down and plow through on a Saturday to try and find one answer to a question that you have as a parent. We kind of sat down and were like, this isn't going to continue. We can't keep going down this road of a board that's elected to represent us not listening to the community that they've been elected to represent. And then I started researching what are the legal remedies. There's no legal way to force a board member to listen to you as a parent or as a taxpayer, but there is a legal way to remove them from that position if they're not going to do their job.
Before moving into breakout groups, the attendees had a chance to ask a couple of questions. One attendee asked, following a successful recall of a school board member, how their replacement would be determined.
It's an open process. People would put their name out. They would interview them during a public meeting. They have the 7 board members of the ESD represent zones that span from Lincoln County all the way over to the far edge of Lynn County. They're our neighbors as well. Yes.
How long is the term of these newly picked people?
That's a very good question. Those people would be in that position until the next regular election in 2027. So theoretically, a year, basically. At which point there would be a normal election, anybody could run, and the process plays out again.
So I know in the normal election, somebody that was recalled can run again.
Absolutely.
In this case, if there is quorum that's choosing the rest of the board, can they recall?
No,
Okay.
they cannot be repicked by either the ESD or the remaining board members. But they could, they're more than welcome to run again at the next regular election. Yes.
Just going back to your earlier comment about you had a lot of attempts to try to engage and didn't get listened to. Is there documentation on that so people could learn more about, I mean, just replacing people doesn't necessarily fix the problem.
Sure.
I mean, how did you get to that conclusion you had to do this big sledgehammer approach? Sorry.
I don't know if sledgehammer is the word I would use,
Okay.
but I don't know how helpful it is to just publish the email correspondence we have with specific board members or the board in and of itself or district members. I mean, do you feel like that would be helpful?
Well, I think it's important to have enough data out there to support this approach.
Okay.
It's fairly disruptive, so I
Sure.
don't know how you best want to do that, but I know individual cases there's that, but then you obviously came to this conclusion that you weren't getting anywhere in your spinning, so
Right.
I just wanted to ask how you could be more transparent about that.
Sure. Well, I want to talk about why we went to 7 instead of picking maybe 1 or 2. Does that answer part of your question?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. So we had a conversation amongst our group about should we recall 1 or 2 or 5 or whatever permutation you'd like. And the first 2 things that I want to say are, 1, we directly asked a school board member after a meeting if recalling 1 or 2 would change the complexion of the board, and we were told directly no, that it would not change the culture and direction of the board. The second question that comes to my mind is, we had several members that were passionate about 1 or 2 individuals on the board. We had some who were just like, I really care about these other ones. We were split as a group on who should be on recalls and who shouldn't. And at some point we just were like, okay, if we can't decide, how can we choose for the public? How can we say these 2 are the most important? Because I can guarantee you that if you're any well engaged in a school district, you probably are passionate about a certain 1 or 2 or 4 or all of them in your own personal experience with the district. The point of getting signatures and putting it on a ballot is that we're getting consensus of the community on what's important and who is important to recall. I don't want to be the person that makes the decision for all of you. So we decided as a group that we put all 7 up. And if we don't get all the signatures, then we don't get all the signatures at the end of the period of time to collect signatures, which is April 6th, by the way. We have 90 days. You know, this is a community-driven process. The community is going to decide what scope is important to them as far as the recall. It may be all 7, it may be 0. And we're going to accept that at the end of this signature gathering process.
Following the breakout sessions, another Q&A portion started. Heather Lincoln is also a volunteer with Save Corvallis Schools.
So I think the biggest question that I've been asked lately is, are we here to ban books? And the answer is no, right? Like, so what's been said multiple times tonight is we're a nonpartisan group of parents who just really care about kids. We really care about our schools. Like, we are not here to ban books or burn books or take away any rights from any students. Like, that is not at all. Like, we just want stronger leadership that's more represented, that represents the best interests of the community, I guess.
So any of this effort, if it is successful, will it have any potential in reversing any decisions that have been made recently?
So Brady just asked if this effort to recall any of the school board members is successful, would it be able to reverse any decisions that have been made recently?
Specifically with closing schools?
Specifically in regards to closing schools. And the answer, I'm not sure. It seems like the answer is no, because they've already invested a lot of time and effort and all of that stuff in there. And like our teachers are working really, really hard to make plans for next year, to adapt to a new education model. And I think we've all probably worked in places where we've been like, oh, like adapt to these new ideas and make all of these changes. And I'm just kidding, we're not going to use the thing that you just spent 9 months working towards. Like, we don't want to do that to people. And I don't think realistically this would reverse decisions. The time for the school district to reverse decisions would have been in November when the state issued their updated budget information. Yes.
I think once this is brought to light, and hopefully it will be favorable, we should be working at the same time on a class action lawsuit. Once you get a class action lawsuit filed, the district does pay attention rapidly. If you as a group have an attorney and you start filing forms, they listen and they start to bargain hard. I believe this can be stopped. Even though the time and the money has already been put in, legal attorneys can do horrible things and wonderful things. They can slow this down. One of the options is to just do this reconsolidation project experiment with one school. Close one school, disseminate those students, see how it's going. And while that one school has been integrated into the others.
Yeah, there are a lot of options that were presented to the school board, and they chose not to go with any of them. But I think ultimately how I view my role, it's like I want to be a critical friend of the school district, right? I want to assume best intentions. Like I feel like everybody is doing their best. And I've been in situations where people are doing their best, and sometimes your best isn't good enough. Right, and it's important to be able to recognize that and then like learn what you can and adapt from there. Yes.
Instead of a recall, why not rely on the next election? Like, why not spend the time developing like 3 strong candidates who could make a run at the board rather than recalling them now?
Do you want me to take that one?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
So I'd like to answer that question because it has come up. Why have a recall when we could just focus on the 2027 election? I want to point out that my kids' future is based on their education, and so is every other kid in this district. And to be honest, the direction that this board is going, I believe that more will happen in the next year. And we've been told that there are rumblings of potentially another school closing next year. So from credible sources, they're not on the record, so I don't want to say their names, but we have been told that this is not the end of closures. We know that closures have to happen, we just don't have enough students to fill the seats in the schools we have. But as a group, we feel that there needs to be a data-driven equity process in which schools close and which ones don't, not, oh, we should just throw an elementary school on top because it sounds good. So I don't want to keep kicking the can down the road for another election when more harm could be done to students in the meantime. Does that make sense? I hope that answers your question.
Yes.
I'm just concerned that I read through the additions, and I don't know if they're fully accurate in what's been stated. The one that concerned me the most was just assigning a responsibility around Osborne Aquatic Center to people that are on the board. Some weren't even in that term, I believe, like the Bernie Wing. So when I read that and learned that, it made me question what you guys are trying to do here, and so I can answer if you can.
I would be happy to answer that for you.
Yes. The city leases the pool, the city manages the pool.
But the district owns it.
Yes, I understand that. Yep.
So the district has been in this brief and shut with the city on who's going to repair the pool, if you've been on the latest news. Nobody wants to take responsibility. It's going to be at least $5.1 million to get the minimum repairs done. They have a wish list that's over $15 million as far as upgrades all in. The fact of the matter is that even though Bernie Wang wasn't on the board when they locked the doors, he's been on the board for over a year. And the board has stopped talking about Osborne. Now, I can tell you from the last I can't even remember. I've been in Corvallis for 27 years. Osborne has always been a pillar of this community as far as a feature and not a burden. The people of this community have voted time and time again to keep Osborne open with our tax dollars. I can't believe that none of the board members have stepped up and said, we have to fix Osborne. And that includes Mr. Wang. Mr. Wang's been on the board for over a year and he has not brought up a solution to opening Osborne. And there is no plan in sight. I mean, for all we know, Osborne could be closed through the 2027 election.
Any other questions?
Sorry if I'm the only one in this room who doesn't know the answer, but all the school board members are unpaid volunteers, correct?
That's correct. All of the school board members are volunteers. They are not paid for their time and effort. So when they do meet you for coffee for like 2 hours, like I had coffee with a school board member the other day, like that's their own time that they are donating. So yes.
But in the same vein, they paid and approved a wage increase for the superintendent while they're closing schools.
That is also true. So she just asked, like at the same time, is this the school district is approving raises for the superintendent while at the same time they're closing schools? And I'm gonna have Julie answer this question or like elaborate on this a little bit because she.
Julie Alexander is another volunteer with Save Corvallis Schools.
I just want to elaborate. Yes, raises were approved. There are things called COLA, cost of living increases. There's also step increases. But since 2019, what is reported on the Oregon OpenPay.gov is that the salary has gone from about $140,000 to $220,000. And so, again, some of these increases are totally explainable with cost of living increases and step increases. Between 22 and 23, there's about a $50,000 raise in there that is not explained by that. And so collectively, these amount to about $85,000. And we do need to give raises to teachers and district leadership. This is absolutely in line with our expectations. However, it does call into question fiscal responsibility and oversight. If the ship is going off a financial cliff, approving raises of that magnitude is questionable. And I personally would like to see accountability for it. It's not necessarily wrong, but we want to see that all of the financial business is being considered.
So what is his pay grade now?
I have no idea. Yeah, I'd be happy to look into that and get back to you. The numbers that I'm reporting are only reported through 2024. They haven't actually posted anything from 25, and we're already in 26. So I can assume that we're looking at least another 7-8% on top of the 24, and another 7 or 8% on that. So it's probably quite a bit of there.
So I listened to some school board members at a Zoom meeting last night, and they said, as you did, that everybody gets an increase in their salary, and that the superintendent's increase was a lower percentage than other people's increase.
So the question was about fact-checking what was said in a BCDEM Zoom meeting last night. There were 3 board members there. I have also noticed that when various board members are questioned about the superintendent's pay, the responses can vary, and I'm sure it's context specific. It probably depends on what year they're talking about or what context. Was it a COLA? Was it a step increase? He did take a pay freeze in 2020, I believe, and I do believe that other members in the district either didn't have a pay freeze or weren't subject to it because that's part of the contracts. That's fine. So yes, he did.
Across
Absolutely.
the board administrative pay
That's right.
freeze.
That's right.
It was not for teachers and support staff.
I recall in one of the last, I think it was the last 2 board meetings, a board member asked about creating stipends for board members. Is that something they're able to do?
The question was about Sammy raised the proposal, or I don't know if he actually made a motion, but he wanted to discuss paying board members a stipend for their time. And, this isn't outside of the realm of what is done in other districts. There's, for example, I have a friend that works in North Carolina on the school board. They have 178 schools under their purview. His stipend is close to $40,000 a year. So, it's possible that that's something that they could explore.
I'm not sure that maybe he did read the room, given that the ship is sailing off of the cliff right now, but we can revisit that when we are more solid, right? They're great people. All of them individually are incredibly credentialed and well qualified, and collectively, they are not doing the right thing.
So just going back to the notion of the school closures that have been announced, so your leadership group is not trying to get that reversed, you're focusing on the recall effort, and the recall effort wouldn't happen in time to change the decision I think's got most people in the room, right?
I can answer for myself, or yeah, let's have you answer.
I'm going to answer the hypothetical first, and then I'm going to answer the practical, because the practical is what Heather explained. Hypothetically, at any given time, a school board could say, we're going to rescind the decision that was made on consolidation. Now, is that practical? Is that going to cause a lot of disruption with staff, students, teachers, administrators across the entire district? Because what we have to realize is we're going to have this huge carousel of teachers this summer where they're going to get sorted by seniority and credentials. And the teachers that have been at Betsy Coleman for 10 years may end up at Garfield. We don't know. So yes, theoretically, a different board or the same board could choose to rescind that decision. Now, is it practical at this point in the process? I don't know.
That was a town hall put on by Save Corvallis Schools, a group who has filed recall petitions against all 7 members of the Corvallis School Board. I'm Millicent Durand. This is KORC News, Music, and Civics.